Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Sal Licata Show podcast, available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. A podcast that is released daily, 5 days a week here, talking about the world of sports. So, we did a breaking news episode, a little bonus episode in your feed last night after the Mets traded for Freddy Peralta. That was fun to react to that. I'm not going to rehash that whole thing in case you missed it. Check it out. It's on YouTube or in the podcast feeds. But I do want to expand on, is it expand or expound? Anyway, I do want to further discuss the addition of Freddy Peralta because there are many layers to it for the Mets. And we'll get to the Yankees here and a little note on the Giants and something on the Knicks as well as some fun with Bada Booms. But just to further discuss the moves with the Mets, okay, the number one thing for me is Met fans need to get to a point where they trust Steve Cohen and David Stearns. I understand that ultimately the results are going to matter most, and that hasn't been there. But there was legitimate thought that the Mets weren't going to do anything, and Cohen was trying to save money, and Stearns doesn't want to go get a pitcher, and this or that. And when you actually now look at it, in the last week, no less, but if you just look at the offseason as a whole, what has David Stearns and Steve Cohen done? They took a blowtorch to a team that wasn't any good. A team of losing players. I really wanted to say losers, and I know Bada Booms would have loved if I said losers and cut that up all over TikTok. But there were a bunch of, I'm going to be nice, there were a bunch of losing players collectively as a team did not get the job done. Period. End of story. You could hang on to the 101 wins in 2022 or the magical, miraculous postseason run of 2024. Ultimately, they weren't good enough. Stearns has the sack to identify that and change it, whether you like it or not. That's check number one. Number two, after he does that, shows the sack to break up a core that he knew Met fans was going to like. He goes out there and they tried to get, like, if I were to ask you, Bada Booms, I'll bring you in here real quick, even in the monologue. If I were to ask you, and it's just real quick, who do you think was the best available player-wise free agency this year? Best available player in free agency to get?
I mean, I'm going to have to default to Tucker.
Correct. And thank you, Bada Booms. That's what we were looking for. Correct answer. And the Mets tried to get Tucker. One more for you, Bada Booms, before we leave. The Mets tried to get Tucker. They did all they could to get the best free agent player available. He wanted the Dodgers for a ridiculous amount of money. And then if I were to ask you, who do you think's the best pitcher that has been moved, whether it is or available? Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Dylan Cease, Freddy Peralta. Which one do you think is the best out of those
You're not
guys?
going to like my answer. I'm not trying to be different.
Go ahead.
It's Edwin Diaz. It was Edwin Diaz.
Okay, I'm talking about
You mean
starting
starter.
pitchers.
Yeah, I know.
Of
I
those
was
four
posing
starters.
that. Yeah, it's the guy the Mets received last night, 100%.
Correct. All right, thank you, Bada Booms. More from you in a little bit here, so stay paying attention. All right. I mean, I know we're overpaying you at this point, but you got to stay locked in and pay attention. So the point is, the Mets went after the best available free agent when fans and people were speculating, oh, Cohen doesn't want to do this, Stearns doesn't want. They went after the best available free agent in Tucker, and there's really nothing they could do other than tip your cap to the Dodgers and just say, wait, he wanted the Dodgers, he didn't want us. He took an absurd amount, $60 million a year to go there. The Mets were offering an absurd amount already, but he took even more. Then they got the best available starter. Bada Booms is correct that they screwed up with Diaz. We know that, and that's a blemish, and we have to let it go at some point. But that to me is the one gripe that you can have with this organization this offseason. But when all's said and done, and I think we're getting near the end of what the Mets are going to do, they'll probably add maybe one more outfielder. But I would love to see another starter. I don't think it's going to happen here, and I would be fine with the team that they have going into spring training as is, going into the season as is, knowing that you're going to upgrade at some point. Things happen, injuries happen, underperformance, and they will upgrade. They've shown you that they will do that. But they went hard after the best free agent outfielder. They acquired the best pitcher on the market in Peralta. He's better than Valdez. He's better than Suarez. He's better than Dylan Cease. And it's not only the move to get the best pitcher, it's also the smartest move. They didn't commit $300 million or $400 million or whatever, even $150 million long-term contract. They might to Peralta now after he hits free agency, but they didn't have to waste a lot of money, on the high-end starting pitching, and they got a better pitcher than that. They weren't desperate chasing free agents, even though those guys were the best, available in the free agent market. They weren't the true aces that the Mets needed. Again, Cease, Valdez, Suarez. I like Suarez, but I'm fine that the Mets didn't go there, and I loved Peralta more so than those guys, a legitimate ace. Now, the other big part of this, and you look at their rotation, you have Peralta, McClain, Peterson, Holmes, Senga, Minaya. The guys that were looked to be the number 1 and 2 last year are now the back end of their rotation. So who wouldn't take that? Those 6 going into the year. Not to mention some of the other depth pieces. McGill, maybe they add another piece. Tong still in the minor league. So there's plenty of depth when inevitably something goes wrong with the starting rotation. So on paper, that's good. The clubhouse is a major issue. And I saw somebody, I think it was my buddy Jake Brown. I used to do a Knicks podcast with Jake Brown. Someone sent me this tweet this morning from him, my group chat of friends. And I'm just going to give you, because I thought it was pretty cool. Okay, so we know that there was issues with the clubhouse, right? I mean, I was one of the first to tell you that in 2022. Nobody wanted to hear it. Much like David Stearns, I took a lot of shit back in 2022. Oh, I say something about the clubhouse. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you, I know what I was talking about. I wouldn't just make that stuff up. I don't care about that. I'm not trying to get clicks, believe it or not. I don't care. I do this because I love to do it. So I wasn't making it up. There were issues in the clubhouse. Stearns finally took a wrecking ball to it after he got here. Anyway, Jake Brown just tweeted, and it's just facts, but he did a good job saying, the Mets made a massive shift in the organization with the egos, with guys who weren't winning. Now, I'm not knocking those players, Nimmo or Alonso, or even Edwin Diaz, what, like we said, we think was a mistake. McNeil, a little bit of a different story. Never was a huge fan of him. But Alonso, McNeil, Nimmo, Diaz, each of those 4 players had 2 playoff appearances to their name. One was in 2022, which was abject failure by all accounts. Total disappointment. They got punked by the Braves before they went into the postseason, and then they get in the postseason, and they got embarrassed by the Padres. The other was a great run in 2024. Once Stearns realized that it was not sustainable, the success that they had, he took a blowtorch to it and brought in guys like Bichette, who just won a pennant, 4 playoff appearances in 7 years. Simeon, World Series champion, 4 playoff appearances. Peralta, 6 playoff appearances in 8 years. Polanco, 5 playoff appearances. So good job by Jake Brown laying that all out. And it shows you that the Mets brought in some guys who know how to win. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to have success and win the division or win the pennant or win a World Series, but they needed players who know what the hell they're doing and know how to win. Not to mention another clip I saw with Peralta. Maybe I could get this to Bada Booms and he can insert this here. But there's another clip with Peralta talking about how he's a big team guy, and after day games, he has everybody over his house. Those are important things. One of the big issues the Mets had last year, and nobody would say, even if you hate the Mets and didn't love the moves that they made last year, I don't think anybody would say with a straight face they didn't have the talent to be a playoff team. In today's world in Major League Baseball with the expanded postseason, come on. The Mets had more than enough talent to make the postseason. The Reds suck, and they got in over the Mets. So when I look at the team, and I'm sure Stearns was thinking the same thing, says, okay, well, our talent should have gotten us at the bare minimum to the postseason. So what was the issue? Not only the clubhouse chemistry, but also we heard about the Lindor-Soto dynamic. Well, maybe a guy like Peralta, a leader, can help bring those two closer together or just change the entire field. And maybe it's not just him. Maybe it is Bichette or Polanco or Simeon. Those type guys, it's not that Nimmo and Alonso were bad guys, but for whatever reason, that chemistry was off. And now they bring in a bunch of different guys, a bunch of proven vets, a bunch of winners who will change the chemistry, I believe, for the better. Also, you look at the lineup now. Go around the diamond here with the Mets. And whether it is Polanco at first, Simeon at second, Bichette at third, the infield overall, obviously you're going to have Lindor and Alvarez, and maybe you get a bounce back year from Alvarez. That'll help maybe some of the power numbers come up. I'm sure they're relying on that, although I don't know how you could rely on it at this point. It's do or die now for Alvarez, but you get the point. So you look at that infield, that's a far better infield than what they had last year. Vientos, Beatty at third. Now you have those guys as platoon players or DHs. You McNeil at second base. Even Acuna, who I liked at second base. I mean, he's got a pop gun bat. So Semion's a real pro and proven player there. Excellent defensive player. And Polanco, the knock is, well, he's never played first base before. He'll be fine. I mean, I worry a little bit about the footwork, but he's an athlete. And I was talking to somebody. Actually, I was talking to somebody at A-Rod's Christmas party. Bada Booms, did I tell you I went to A-Rod's Christmas party? Did you know that? Oh, yeah. What, you jealous of that? Come on. Maybe next year you'll get the invite. Anyway, I went to but yeah, you got to wear sleeves to that. Anyway, so one of the guys I was talking to at A-Rod's Christmas party was saying that he used to work with Polanco as a young kid, and he's not worried about him transferring to first base at all. The footwork and all that stuff will be there. His arm's going to be better than Alonso because I think you or I have a better arm than Pete Alonso. I'm not trying to knock him. It's the reality. I mean, why can't we be Why can't we be truth sayers anymore? We can't be truthful anymore. Everybody's got to sugarcoat things and lie about things. I mean, we all saw it. He couldn't even flip the ball to first base. He derailed the Mets season, killing Kodai Senga. So the infield's going to be better. And then the outfield, and this is what I really love about Luis Robert, where the floor is better than anything the Mets had last year, and the ceiling is better than anything the Mets have had since Carlos Beltran. He's a gold glover in center field. That's going to help Soto and right. That's going to help Benj in left. So bare minimum, you're getting a legitimate defensive stud outfielder. I thought they were going to have that with Siri last year. That was an utter disaster. Jose Siri was a 0 for the Mets. This I would expect to go a lot better, even if Robert does hit 240 or whatever it may be with 15 homers. That's far better than anything the Mets had defensively, but I also just love the upside with a young player there. And then Benj in left field, you have a nice mix of a young, rookie who you got to give some time to grow here. The Mets just can't have every position plugged and you stunt the growth of some of the guys in the farm system. It's on Stearns and his crew to identify the ones that they want to give the opportunity. We'll see if Benj goes out there and wins the job in the spring, but I'm okay with that spot being kind of vacant for Benj to take a hold of. And if not, maybe they get another right-handed outfield bat, or who knows, just an outfield bat, a veteran guy as some insurance, or you have Beatty take some reps in left field. So overall, the point is the Mets desperately needed to upgrade their starting pitching. They did that, adding a legitimate ace in Freddy Peralta. The Mets needed to restructure the entire look of the team. They have done that. Balance in the lineup, guys with some pop, guys with some experience. They need to get better defensively. They've done that. The bullpen, I'm not going to say better because they don't have Diaz, but the bullpen is deeper than it was a year ago. Not so reliant on just the one guy. You wish the only thing outside of, like, if I had to grade their offseason right now, I'd give them an A, maybe an A minus. I don't want to be too lenient because I am a difficult grader here, but I mean, there's a lot of boxes that I want to check. So that's why I say an A, but it would have been an A plus if they brought Diaz back. Now, you could also have an A plus offseason and have a D regular season. You saw that a year ago. You get Juan Soto, you don't make the playoffs. The offseason grades don't really matter. Same thing for the Giants. We'll get to the Giants in a little bit with the Harbaugh stuff, but it doesn't matter what happens at the press conference or in the offseason. It's exciting. It's fun to think about. But for me, if there were only two things that I could do this offseason for the Mets, one would have been to take the wrecking ball to the core. Check. The other would have been to get an ace. They did that with Peralta. Check. Now, the Yankees offseason. Bada Booms, you had something that you wanted to add there about Peralta? I'm sorry, I almost forgot. What did you want to add about Peralta and the Mets before we move on to the Yankees?
Well, I did want to bring up that Peralta clip that you mentioned, which I think is such a huge thing. Because when you talk about the whole culture shift, in baseball, that's more important than any other sport. I mean, you live with these guys for 4, 5, 6 months of the year.
You ever play baseball?
Yeah, absolutely. I played baseball until I was old enough to play football full time.
Well, yeah, I know.
Took up the whole year.
Right, I know you were a football player. All right, what position you play in baseball? Catcher?
Yeah, I was the big daddy position, so first, third, and catcher. As I got older, I grew more akin to third base just because I could pick it at like one of those, like Arenado. Like,
why, dude? Why don't you wear sleeves?
That's why.
And you're showing off the guns.
Right
No, I see big,
but it's
big
pale
arm.
white though. You got to take me to like Caraco or something, and I got to get some color.
You got to get some cut in there. Maybe eat a little more protein and veggies and get to the gym. You know what I'm saying? Get a nice little cut going there.
I was gonna shout out, one of those meal plans you can get me, but they haven't paid us yet. When they pay us,
not yet. All right. Anyway,
I'll say their name.
So chemistry, right? Because of the long season in baseball, you think that's a big issue here.
And, that fired me up what Peralta said. He was basically saying that I love my teammates. They are my family. I don't even invite them over. They know after the game, come to my house. I have the I just love hearing that. And I always want to knock Peralta too. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent and reiterate things, but just saying how kind of big this move is, besides the fact he's an ace, besides the fact that he proved himself over the last year that he's coming to his own. I was clowning it on him from a Yankee standpoint, saying, "Oh, he could be Montas, he could be Sonny Gray," but his confidence level. And I just think what he brings, he's huge. He looks like an ace. He could play defensive end if he was a football player, and that's what he did growing up. But
Bada
besides
booms.
the point,
Yeah,
besides the point, I'm
yeah.
gonna get to where I was going. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
I
it.
think we need to have you have an issue with not hearing the question or just blowing through the direct question and getting your moves in. Like, just answer the question. You had something that you wanted to get to. You took 5 minutes to get to it. Just get to it already.
Get my stuff
Yeah,
in.
you want to get your stuff in. What was the point that you had about Peralta to extend the conversation?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not gonna apologize this time because you told me no apologies. So, besides the point, what I was saying, for what the Mets gave up, it is imperative they re-sign Peralta.
Okay, now let me ask you. Do you think that they won't sign Peralta to an extension if he has a good year?
So, not if he has a good year, obviously, I think it's going to come at some point, but you got to think that
I'm not even
Skubal's
talking about in season. I'm just saying at the end of the year, like that's the luxury. And thank you for your time, Bada Booms. We appreciate you checking in and sending the conversation. I'm going. What am I going to do with this kid? Oh my God. Episode 5 already. It's the same thing. We have a lack of comprehension from Bada Booms at times. What was it that you wanted to say? Well, before I get to that, and gives you 15 minutes of stuff before you get to the just get to it, will you? Get to it. Anyway, I think one of the biggest strengths about the Mets organization is that, let's say Stearns, who's running things now, the way he was operating in Milwaukee with a guy like Peralta, where you worry about, are they going to be able to extend him? The Mets can extend anybody they want. So it's not a matter of if they could. Wow, they gave up a lot. They gave up Jet Williams to get him, which, yeah, okay, you have to give to get. So they give up Jet Williams, I'm sure a player that they liked, but also a player that they felt expendable. They're not going to give up Carson Bench. They'd rather give up Jet Williams. So they do that, and then people say, well, you better extend him. Well, no, not necessarily, because A, I'm not worried about whether they extend him or not. B, it's going to be up to them. They're not going to lose him because they can't afford him. It's going to be if they want to pay him what he's worth on the open market. That's something that other teams can't do. It's something that David Stearns could not do in Milwaukee. But here with the Mets, he can do that, and I fully expect him to do that. I don't look at Peralta as a one-year rental. I know that's what the trade is on the surface. I look at Peralta as a guy that if the Mets decide at the end of the year that he was a good fit in New York, has a good year, is healthy, they're going to give him whatever the market says and retain him, maybe even in addition to Skubal. And if they decide to let him go and instead pay Skubal, then that's fine too. But money is never going to be an issue for the Mets as long as King Cohen is owning the team. Now, as for the Yankees, the Yankees make a great move in bringing Bellinger back. It's not a surprise that they bring Bellinger back. Bellinger, they called his bluff. He had no other options. The Mets really didn't want him, and it's not a shot at the Yankees. It's just the truth. If the Mets really wanted him, they would have had to overpay to get him. They weren't going to do that the way that they were willing to do it with Kyle Tucker, who was a better player. Yankees wanted Bellinger all along. He's a perfect fit for their lineup. They're a perfect fit for him, hitting in that lineup, hitting in that ballpark, all the things that we've discussed many times over. But does that make them better than where they were a year ago? And I don't think that it does. I think the Yankees have an issue with thinking that they're better than they are. They're going to rely on their pitching being better with Garrett Cole coming back, which is great. But then what happens if somebody else goes down? Now, you love their starting rotation. How can you not? Cole, Fried, Rodon, Schlittler was dominant last year. They added some depth with Weathers, whatever. The Yankees have plenty of options in that rotation. And I'm not worried about the bullpen. I mean, maybe they could get one more arm. I think the Yankees are going to be looking to get another big arm in that pen, but that could happen before the season. That could happen in season. I wouldn't be overly concerned. I'm never concerned about bullpens going in. I don't care what team it is. Bullpens to me are the things that they're so fickle year to year. You can build those the easiest in season. So I'm not worried about the Yankees bullpen. Plus, Brian Cashman has had a knack for that. That's the one thing. Like, you can knock Cashman all you want. He's had a knack for being able to develop bullpens or build bullpens, whether it's preseason, in season. they'll find some guys. Guys that we've never heard of will come on and emerge. He'll go out and acquire guys. Maybe they go get a big-time stud to pair with Bednar there. So I'm not worried about the bullpen. I'm not worried about the rotation. What I am concerned about with the Yankees is that the lineup to me is, while it is a dominant regular season lineup, it's just not, in my opinion, balanced enough to compete in the postseason. The reason the Yankees got to the World Series in 2024 was because of the dominance of two players, Soto and Judge. Aside from like pitching, and so I'm talking about the lineup. Soto and Judge. Those two guys masked a lot of the flaws, covered up for the deficiencies up and down that lineup. Too many strikeouts, not enough contact guys. Those two guys, Soto and Judge, covered that up. And they did it at a historic level to the point where the Yankees went to the World Series. Forget about the result of the World Series, whatever. It is what it is. I know it was ugly, but okay, they got there. First time since 2009. The goal from there should have been to keep that team intact and build off of that. Okay, what do we got to do? Now we know where the base is getting to the World Series with this group. How do we build around Soto and Judge and take this team to another level to go surpass the Dodgers? And instead, now, it is some fault of their own, but they just at some point drew the line in the sand, and Soto decided to go to the Mets. They were hoping to get Soto back at the discount like they got Aaron Judge, who is clearly the best value in Major League Baseball. You've seen some of the contracts. Judge, by far, the best value in Major League Baseball that's out there. They were hoping maybe Soto would have given them a little bit of a hometown discount. He didn't. He bolts. That's a major punch in the gut to the Yankees. And everybody wanted to believe the pivot to plan B was actually better for them. It wasn't. They were not as good of a team. They were maybe a little more balanced, but they weren't as dominant in the lineup or in that area with those two Hall of Famers hitting back to back. So they get better with Fried, sure. They balance things out a little bit and they bring Bellinger in. The idea would have bring in some of those guys, not all of them, in addition to retaining Soto. But now we move on from that, and here we are in 2025. So the Yankees get to the 94 win marker, but the Blue Jays pasted them really all year long, especially in the postseason. What do the Yankees do? They bring back Grisham, and now they bring back Bellinger. And I hate to say it, but I do think that's it. And I think they're lacking a true leadoff hitter. And you can look at it and say, well, Grisham had a great year last year as leadoff hitter. Sal, what are you talking about? Look at his OPS. And I say, yeah, well, look at what he's done in his career prior to last year. He's never done that before. So what would make me think he could do that again? Also, in the postseason, what he did was he was an automatic out. It destroyed the team and was a large part of why they didn't have success in the postseason. And that has been the norm, not just with Grisham. It was Luke Voit years ago, or at times Judge, or at times Stanton, or pick a different player. And I know that at times, like Judge had a great postseason this year, and Stanton had a great postseason historically, but a lot of times, to me, my perspective, those all or nothing guys, the power guys that strike out a lot, the guys that put up gaudy numbers in the regular season, and maybe it's less about Judge because he's just a beast against really anybody, but the guys like Voit and Grisham who put up big numbers on a random season in the regular season, in the playoffs when the pitching gets better and the competition level raises, those guys come back down to earth. And that's something that I think is a mistake for the Yankees, relying heavily on Grisham or some other guys up and down that lineup. You know, I mean, McMahon's a strikeout machine, but Jazz Chisholm, too many guys that have either great skill or great power and can just be, whoa, the Yankees can just maul you and mash you with their power. But then in the playoffs, against the better pitching, they don't give you quality at bats or they strike out, don't put the ball in play. Whereas you see the Blue Jays, the team that destroyed the Yankees, and that should be the measuring stick, not only the reigning AL East champs, but obviously the reigning American League champs, where they put the bat on the ball. There is a clear philosophy that they have with building a roster that helped them get to the level that they're at. And I think the Yankees lack that. And I think the Yankees truly lack awareness to where they think they're better than they are. Now, the results for the Yankees, they could say, well, like I could say that they think they're better than they are. They could say, well, how much better do you want us to be? We won 94 games. I get it. But sometimes that could be maybe a detriment. Whereas if they won 87 games, like the Mets didn't make the playoffs, and Stern said, okay, well, now you could think whatever you want about this group, but we didn't make the playoffs, and I'm taking a blowtorch to it. There was a definitive reason. Had the Mets won 92 games last year and went on a little bit of a run of the postseason, maybe Alonso is back. Maybe Nimmo is back. But there was no more doubts about that core group. Stearns had a feeling it was going to go this way. Then it went this way. He blew it up. The Yankees continue to have success as far as getting to the postseason, regular season success, which makes them believe that they don't need significant changes. And then you have a team that's basically running it back, and they will tell you, we are better than what you think we are, and we think we're better than Toronto. And last year, the Blue Jays just got hot in a series against us. I think that's faulty logic, but that's what the Yankees believe, and the moves are evident or evidence of that. Bada Booms, you're a big Yankee guy. Are you okay with the? Let me just make sure we bring Bada Booms in here, and let's try this. See if he can get it on take two. Bada Booms, are you okay with the Yankees offseason so far?
Not at all. I'm viscerally angry over it, actually.
Okay, well, why don't you expand on that?
Oh, thank you, Sal. I appreciate you
Is
giving
it
me the floor to do so.
Is it? I'm just glad you listened to the question this time. Is it expand or expound? I feel like I get those two wrong, and I don't know why I'm asking you this, but because you might not know.
Why are you asking me this? I barely graduated high school. Barely. If it wasn't for COVID and a torn ACL, I wouldn't have graduated high school. Besides the point there, going back to the
Wait
Yankees,
a second. You didn't go to college? Just kidding. Go ahead. You lied on your resume. You lied on your resume, George O'Leary. Okay, go ahead.
Wait, what's that one? I've never. What's that?
Georgia Tech, George O'Leary. Look him up.
Yeah, no.
Come on, I thought you were a big college football guy.
No, well, I am a big college football guy, but I'm not familiar with that.
Also, I'm hearing myself in so can you turn down the volume there, Bada Booms?
Yes.
Maybe take off the hood and put the headphones on, and then you can hear yourself. Yes. Okay, now go ahead. So anyway, Yankees offseason.
All right. Besides the point there with the Yankees offseason, they have this like big scheme and plan that they have this youth. And when I speak of the youth, they have a shortstop who we're not going to see for another 2 years. And they have two outfielders. One we haven't seen any at bat from, and one he's lost in left field. He can't play left field, even if it's as a platoon thing. I'm getting worked up about it right now because I want to see Yason Dominguez exceed. I want to see him excel. I want to see this Martian. I've been hearing about this Martian since I was, no joke, Sal Licata, a freshman in high school. I haven't been a freshman in high school for 6 years now.
There is a chance that Dominguez starts the season in the minor. I'm still hearing myself in your ear. There is a chance Dominguez starts the season in the minor leagues. Think about that again, because they have Grisham in center, obviously Judge and right, and Bellinger slated for left field. Rice is going to play first base this year. He's going to be the first baseman. They're high on that. So I mean, Caballero is going to be at short. Jazz is going to be at second, barring some kind of trade that I don't see coming right now. McMahon's at third. Austin Wells catching. That's their line. Stanton's going to be the DH. So unless usually things happen, somebody gets hurt, whatever it may be, but there's no room for Dominguez right now. A guy was supposed to come up to your point and be the Martian. Forget Spencer Jones. There's no room for Dominguez.
You just go back to it. And I know everybody's saying this, and it might be tired at this point, but the Trent Grisham thing is totally true. They did not expect Grisham to take that deal. Can I pull from what A-Rod told you one time? Because this is something that really stuck with me, and I've always thought this, but to hear A-Rod say it really, I agree with the philosophy. If you don't mind me saying this. The problem with this Yankee team is, look at the guys. There's one player who has consistently been hitting in the same lineup with Judge, and it's a guy who I love, one of my favorite Yankees of all time. He's massively underrated, great playoff success, but he barely plays 70 games a year. I mean, if Stanton isn't healthy, which, knock on wood, he's not going to be, there's no consistency in this lineup. And, Jazz is probably gone. The catcher's probably gone after the end of the year. So what are you going to do? And back to Ben Rice, if you don't mind me expounding, whatever it is. Ben Rice needs to catch at least 70 games this year. He's
not catching. They're going to have him. They're going to have him first base.
What do you mean? He's not going to catch at all?
Only in dire situations.
Well, when you see a certain guy tonight who might be able to change that, can you tell him Bada Boom said?
Yeah. What you want him catching? Last year, I was told that the Yankees were high on Ben Rice as a catcher. Now
He
it
wasn't
sounds
bad
like
at
Ben
all.
Rice.
He ended up picking up steam at the end. He
I
was
did not
catching
think he was a good.
Freed.
No, here's some of the issue that I have with the Yankees.
Mhm.
I made a big stink about it last year, saying Ben Rice is not a catcher. Okay, we were talking about this with BT all the time. Ben Rice is not a catcher, and then there was some thought, no, he can catch. Oh, they like his arm, they like the way he calls the game, whatever it may be. I'm like, he's not a catcher. I've watched baseball long enough to know he's not a catcher. The Yankees tried to say that he was, in fact, a catcher, and they believed in him as a catcher last year. Now he's a first baseman. And he's going to be a great first baseman. Like, I'm tired of the propaganda. At some point, you got to see the results. So I do think Ben Rice is going to rake. I mean, he hits. I'm not worried about that. I wanted to see him more in the
stance, beautiful stroke.
Yeah, and he's got to carry whatever he does in the regular season over to the postseason and give you quality at bats, even against lefties. Like, that's going to be a big thing. Anyway, overall point, bada booms, because we're running out of time here. Overall point, you as a Yankee fan, like, I'm not saying it because I'm a Yankee hater. I'm saying I need to see more. You agree that you want to see more. If there were one move, maybe I'll ask it this way. Let's try it again, too. I'll ask you another question. So, if you had one move to make for the Yankees this offseason going into the year, what would that one move be?
I don't know necessarily if the right guy was out there, but you're so right about the leadoff hitter thing. I mean, obviously he's hurt now, and I hope he gets better. But when all is said and done, and if Volpe's end up staying on this team, whatever the case may be, at the end of the year when he does get back, you need to see him develop as a lead-up hitter. He has every tool that you need. When he's on, he works the at-bats. When he gets on base, he throws off the pitcher, which is huge when you have Bellinger and Judge coming up behind you. Volpe needs to be the leadoff hitter. The problem is he's not ready for it. He hasn't shown that he's ready for it.
All right, couple more things here. The Giants. So this is where you love the John Harbaugh stuff and the impact of hiring a head coach with his resume, cachet, pedigree, whatever it may be. This is where you already know that Joe Shane was going to be neutered, and that's a great thing. That's not a good thing. That's a great thing for the Giants organization. Not a knock on Shane, but well, no, it is a knock on Shane. He stinks. He shouldn't be around anyway. And maybe this is the first step for him being out the door, but it doesn't matter. He's irrelevant because Harbaugh is going to have final say. But when you start seeing things like this is where now it means something. And there was a report last night. I saw it from Ian Rappaport. Giants parted ways with Kevin Abrams, a name who, like, we don't really know front office names, or at least I don't pay attention to it. I'm sure people in the weeds, Giant fans, love all the front office stuff. I don't even care. Even with the teams, like, I grew up rooting for the Falcons, don't care about the under guys. Give me the GM, the head coach. That's all that matters. Owner, GM, head coach. Anyway, we've heard the name Kevin Abrams for a long time with the Giants. He is was the senior VP of football operations and strategy, and he's gone. He was there for 30 years, nearly 30 years. He's been a mainstay for every regime, and now the Giants move on. And that's a good thing. You feel bad for the guy who loses his job. I think he'll be fine making that type of money for 30 years. But obviously, you don't want to see people lose their job. But when you have an organization that has failed as badly as the Giants have for the better part of a decade, time to move on. And Harbaugh coming in, changing those things, that's what successful people do. Patino did it with St. John's. That's what happens. When you have guys that know what they're doing, they come in and evaluate a program from the top to the bottom and start changing things. That's exactly what you need to do. Patino had that track record. He comes into St. John's. He's going to be cleaning it up and bringing in the right people. Same thing now with Harbaugh. You'd like to think that Aaron Glenn was doing that with the Jets, but he doesn't have the pedigree that these guys have. So when Harbaugh comes in, instead of just being, oh, yeah, we're good with Abrams. He's a good guy, nice man. He's been here forever. Nope. Let him make the difficult decisions. The Mara family couldn't do it. They didn't want to do it. Harbaugh comes in. I need to have control over who's running things here and personnel, and we just want to go in a different direction. Not a knock on anybody. Harbaugh needs to bring in his guys. That's how it should work. So that's a big thing for the Giants. I'm sure you're going to continue to see the organizational restructuring, which can only be great for a team that couldn't get out of their own way for the last 12, 13 years, whatever it may be. That gets me more encouraged than anything else. Forget about the thought of Dart and Neighbors and Carter and Scadaboo and Harbaugh coaching those players. Yeah, obviously that's going to be a big part of the results here. But the thing that really gets me excited is changing the infrastructure of a team that just hasn't had it right for many, many years. That's what you needed. I've been begging for the Giants to do that for a long time. Took them long enough, but finally they seem like they're on the right path with Harbaugh taking the full reins. over at what is it, Quest Diagnostic Center, whatever it may be there with the Giants facilities. The Knicks, they had the good old meeting, players only meeting, led by Jalen Brunson, and they go out there and like that's a game. Honestly, I don't know how the NBA can show that game on TV. The Knicks won 120-66 over the Nets. That's like, I mean, that's like little league stuff. Like you can't. It's unacceptable. What's the bada booms? What's the right term for like intramural basketball, little league basketball? Is there a term for that? Like it's pee wee football, it's little league baseball. What's the basketball term? You ever play youth basketball?
I did, right? And I coached as well. That dog is the dog did not like your take there about
Shut up, Maddox. Yeah, even he doesn't like the way the Knicks have been playing lately.
That's fan. But
all right, so youth basketball, is that
recreational
okay.
rec? We call
there
it
you
rec.
Go. Okay, rec basketball. That dude, 120-66 in the NBA. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to go nuts and say, yeah, the Knicks, you can pump your chest, and Brunson did the right thing. Yeah, the old Terry Collins used to say this to us. He'd call a team meeting or whatever it was when he knew DeGrom was pitching the next day. I mean, that's kind of obvious. The old team meeting when you got a soft opponent and your ace on the mound. Yeah, Brunson, the old team meeting when you know the Nets are coming in. I mean, come on, 120-66, ridiculous. The big thing with the Knicks, and we're going to be following along with this, I think it's a matter now of when, not if. When will they trade Karl Anthony Towns, and who will it be for? How are they going to restructure that? I would be stunned at this point if the Knicks keep Karl Anthony Towns beyond the trade deadline. So we got, 2 weeks before that's the case? So we'll keep an eye on that, obviously. And then, bada boom, so I wanted to get to you, Leslie, here. We'll close with you. I wanted you, so like, all right, bada booms and I knew we met each other a few weeks ago, whatever it was online. You reached out. I was like, okay, I like what I'm hearing. We talk a little further. Let's give you an opportunity. And I've liked the job that you've done so far here, and just this is the 5th episode. But a couple of things. Before I quiz you here or whatever it is that I'm going to do, how was the McGriddle yesterday? Did you actually have it?
I did not. I ended up getting in the lab and started tweaking stuff. I do have a question from the lab. I don't mean
No, you're deviating. No deviating. We could get to your question, but I asked you a question. Yes. Don't blow past it. Like I said, how was the McGriddle? It's a very simple answer. Sal, you know what? I thought about it, but I didn't have time to do it. I got caught up in doing stuff.
The paycheck did not reach my bank account. I think you got the wrong one.
What do you mean?
The payment, the paycheck for yesterday's show. Is it blanking on you now?
All I did was ask you if you had the McGriddle.
Yeah, I couldn't pay for it. I went up there, scanned the thing, and they said, sorry, sir, insufficient funds. I said, what do you mean? The great Sal Licata was just with King Cohen, and he paid me.
So then I asked you to do some homework and watch The Unreal Show on Netflix. And did you do that last night?
Yeah, I was getting too hype, and then I ended up, not watching it. You want to give me a summary?
No, we could save it until you watch it, and then we'll talk about it on the next episode or after that. But I know you're working here, but I asked you to watch a show. You were up anyway, and you didn't watch the show. And then on top of that, and this was the real note I wanted to get to, and we had this a little bit earlier because I couldn't help myself when we had you involved before and you're doing the same thing. What is your issue with when I ask you a question? Like, I'm bringing you on the air, we're having a conversation. I ask you a question, and your mind is fixated on what you want to get in or get to instead of listening to what I'm asking you. That has happened multiple times.
Isn't that good, though, that there's room to improve? Like, you never want a finished product at such a young age. Like you said before, I got to take better quality at bats. That's fine. I can hit 35 bombs, and we'll give you 278, maybe take a base or two on a pass ball. But there's room to improve. I have to have better at bat quality. Don't line upside.
I don't need 35 bombs from you. I want you to get on base. Just get on base. I'll drive you in.
Take a bag on a pass ball. Is that not enough?
Just get on base. Let's start with it's like baby steps in grooming you. And I think you're very good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given you this opportunity.
You use that word, especially with the age differential between me and
you. Excellent point. That's a good. Can you not say that word anymore? I'm not even sure
I'm
we should.
Saying with the age differential,
mentoring,
how this relationship became.
Mentoring? Should we use that?
In the DMs? Do you know that song? It go down in the DM. It go down.
That is true. You did hit me up in the DMs. I don't know that song. I'm trying to help you develop here. Step one, listen to the questions that I ask you when we're on the air, off the air as well. Like if I say, hey, you interested in the show? Why don't you watch it? Yeah, no problem. Do it. Like actually do it. Imagine Mike in the day asking me to do something and me not doing it. Imagine Mike bringing me on the air, which he did, Bada Boom.
Sal Licata.
Well, I could be the Mike to your Sal. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're the Sal to my Mike, or I don't know that. When I was your age, I was working behind the scenes like that. And you don't have to lose your hair. You can keep your hair and keep your sleeves off, although I'd recommend, maybe at some point getting sleeves. But like if Mike brought me on the air and I didn't answer the question he was asking me and I just went rogue, it was like, yeah, Mike, that sounds great. I'll get to that in a second. But let me just get to this thing. What do you think he would do? He'd flip out. He'd be like, what are you doing? And that probably wouldn't be allowed on again. Now, I'm not going to do that with you. And by the way, rightfully so. But just a simple starter point. When we come on and I ask you a question, just answer the question.
How long did Paul Skeens stay in the minor leagues for? How long did he play for the Birmingham Pirates?
I don't know how long.
I think it was about 3 starts. When you have Paul Skeens. When you have Paul Skeens and you're not winning games and you're not selling tickets, Paul Skeens.
We'll get there. Paul
Skeens should be pitching at PNC Park. By the way, one of the most beautiful places to watch a baseball game.
Yeah, I think it's a little overrated. I would go with San Francisco myself as the number 1 park. I liked PNC a lot.
I'd love to go to. I want to go there so badly. Home of the greatest
San Diego
of all time.
Bonds. Yeah, I agree. San Diego as well. Maybe do a road trip at one point. All right. Obviously, we love you, Bada Booms. But I did, take notice of like, man, I just asked him a question. He blows right through it. And then we have to circle back to the question.
All right. I stayed up last night. So, again, I'm not going to apologize. I want to, but you told me not to. But endlessly, like Lil Baby said, some to prove.
Less apologies, more answering the questions that are asked. All right, that does it for episode 5, Sal Licata Show. Remember, download, rate, subscribe, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast with daily episodes. See you again tomorrow. BT and Sal live tonight. We'll recap that on tomorrow's episode. Good night.